Hello, and welcome to the Breakin Broncos podcast. Unfortunately, y'all are just stuck with me today. I am not sure what happened to my co-host Dylan. I haven't gotten a response, and I don't have my phone near me, and I can barely even walk right now, so I am not going to search for it. Dylan, if you're watching, the link is in your email. Go over there, grab it, get in. We'll be happy to add you in. But with that being the case, let's go ahead and jump into this week's action. The Broncos had the ugliest loss that I can remember. And I've been a Broncos fan since I was born in 1985. Yes, I just dated myself, and I don't care. But, oh, man. Thursday night was one of the biggest debacles I have ever seen. It is not quite as bad as the 40-plus point loss uh, by Josh McDaniels against the Eagles and things of that nature during his tenure. But at least in the last decade, since 2012, when Peyton Manning came back, there has not been an uglier loss than what the Broncos suffered on Thursday. Even with throughout the Drew Lock times, throughout every other quarterback through the quarterback carousel since Peyton left, I cannot think of another game that was that ugly on both sides. At least in the last decade, when the Broncos have sucked, the other teams at least looked good. Even if they were a bad team, they looked good. But on Thursday night, prime time, that was one of the worst primetime games I've ever seen. I mean, bless uh, the announcers and them really trying. I mean, the whole comment of this game's sometimes you can see games that are so bad that they're almost good. And Kirk Herbstreit just nailing that. No, no. I mean, yes, I'm with you. I'm with you, Kirk. No, there was not so bad. It was almost good. It was so bad. It was just infuriatingly gross to watch on both sides of the ball. Outside of defense, which I mean, I guess if you're a defensive guy or girl, whatever, maybe you can get down with that. And I am a big proponent of defenses. I love great defensive play, but it wasn't really great. I mean, the Broncos were really, really good. The Colts were good, but it wasn't really great defensive play. It was just really, really horrendous offensive play by both quarterbacks, by both offenses. It was just, I. It took everything in me to keep that TV on. And if I didn't do this for a living, I would have shut it off. I would have been leaving early, just like all those fans that left the stands early um, in that game before overtime hit. So, why is Russ missing wide open receivers? This is a big question so many have asked throughout national and local media and even fans across all social platforms. How is Russ possibly missing receivers that are wide open all over the field because he's on a new team, new offense, and he only trusts one guy. There is one guy on that offense that he trusts, and it's Cortland Sutton. Outside of that, he has absolutely no trust in any other receiver. It's justifiable at this point. Jerry Judy can't hold on to a ball to save his life, especially if it's in the end zone. Like, I swear that guy has some kind of a hex. Once he's inside that end zone, he's just not going to catch it. He might catch one and take it 50, 60 yards, but if you make it easy for him and throw it to him in the end zone, 9 times out of 10, the man's going to drop it. He is, at this point, I do believe Jerry Judy is a first round bust. It's been 4 years. He has done absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing to cure the drops. He can make all the spectacular plays. He can go up and take it off somebody's dome, but that doesn't matter if every single time that you're put into a clutch situation on third down or the red zone and you drop the ball, the quarterback's not going to throw it to you. And so, therefore, you are not going to get production, and therefore, you are a bust. So, unless Jerry Judy turns it around immediately and stops dropping the most important balls, he'll make those circus catches again. But it's always those routine balls, the ones that hit him right in the chest, right in the hand, just flat out drops it. There's no excuse for it. None. At this point, there are none. You sat there and everybody wanted to give him excuses because he had crappy quarterbacks thrown to him. Well, he's got a much better quarterback. Y'all can lament all you want about how Russell Wilson has played, and we'll get into that in just a second. But Russell Wilson has given him more opportunities and better opportunities than he's had in his entire career up to this point, and he's still failing. Jerry Judy is an absolute waste of space at this point if he can't keep a hold of the ball. If you can't catch, you are a useless wide receiver. I'm sorry that might sound crude and rude, but I don't care. It's the truth. If you cannot catch the ball as a wide receiver when your one job is to catch the ball, you are useless. Just period. You are useless. You are a waste of space, and you should not be on the roster. So unless that can be corrected, I do believe this is the last year you will see Jerry Judy in Denver. This is getting beyond ridiculous. As much as people want to jump on Melvin Gordon for the fumbles, they need to be jumping on Jerry Judy for the drops because it is just as bad. Both of those guys do nothing but waste time and waste space in the most important moments. They should not be on the field at this point until they have proven that they actually deserve to be in those positions. Melvin Gordon took a nice step forward last week, was contrite after the loss to the Raiders, came out and ran like a madman and actually showed improvement, kept his hands on the ball. He did what Jerry Judy needs to do now. And it took for weeks and weeks and even years of people bashing the man before he finally did something to correct his issue with Melvin Gordon. Well, maybe beating upside of Jerry Judy's head for the next several weeks will get him to do the same. So whatever it is, you got to figure it out, Judy, and get it figured out now. This is why Russ is missing wide open receivers because he doesn't trust them. He's not even looking their direction because he's not going to throw it to them because, again, regardless of whether they're wide open or not, he does not trust them, so he's not going to look in their direction. Same thing that happened with KJ Hamler at the end of the game. Earlier in the game, there was a couple of times that he had a chance to make a spectacular play and help out his quarterback in a clutch situation, and he didn't. And so when it came down to crunch time, what did Russell Wilson do? He stared down the only person on the offense that he trusts. So that is why Russell Wilson is missing wide open receivers because he's not looking their way because he doesn't trust them. And that is the biggest problem with this offense. So next question is, can this offense figure it out? It all boils down to what I was just talking about. Trust in your fellow man. If somehow over the next 7 days plus the last three, well, it'd be really two because Russ had to go out on Friday to get a shot in his shoulder for a partially torn labrum that has been bothering him since the second quarter of the Raiders' loss, which everybody, if you look, it went severely downhill in that Raiders game after the second quarter, and then it led into the absolutely horrendous play that happened on Thursday. So while a lot of people want to point the blame at Russ, and it is justifiable, let's buoy that a little bit with the fact that we now know the man has a partially torn labrum in his throwing shoulder. And as we all know, like think back to Trevor Simeon when he played in 2016, when he played 4 games on what we were told was just a minor shoulder sprain, only to find out after the season that the man had to have surgery on a completely separated shoulder. So the Broncos letting the world know he has a partially torn labrum, it's more than likely much worse than that. They're not going to tell the world exactly how bad it is because they don't want other teams gunning for that arm. Even though they're going to anyways because it's obviously where the injury is. No, nobody's going to go out there and maliciously do it. But if they got a chance to put him down on that right shoulder, maybe put a little bit of weight on him without getting a penalty, they're going to do it. And some might even just take the penalty just to see if they can knock him out the game. And hopefully that shot in the shoulder, gives Russ that second chance on life, I guess you could say, this season, and we get to see him take that step, go back to being that old Russ. But until we see it Monday, we're just really kind of guessing at this point. But that shoulder injury is going to be a huge storyline to watch over the next few weeks. If he continues to look as bad as he did on Thursday, we know that injury is much worse than what they let on. If he gets better, then hey, maybe they were right. Maybe it was just a strain or a sprain, and he just needed a nice little pain-killing shot by a specialist in Los Angeles, and he's good to go for the rest of the season. But we won't know that until we see him on the field on Monday night against the Chargers. So, should fans worry about that shoulder at this point? Like I just said, we have to see what it looks like on Monday. If it looks the same, if he plays the same that he did on Thursday, it's obvious that Russ needs to take a step back, take a seat, and get some rest and relaxation and get that throwing shoulder back for the long term. Because the last thing anybody in Broncos country wants to see is Russell Wilson go out here and get either a season-ending or, Lord forbid, a career-ending injury because he kept playing with a throwing shoulder and just completely tore something up. People wanted to talk about, oh, he's lost his fastball. Yeah, you would lose your fastball too if you partially tore your labrum in your throwing shoulder. So that's going to be something to watch. See how much zip he has on the ball. See if he's really able to let it loose again because there's no pain. Or does he look the same or worse? That's going to be the biggest thing. So as of right now, I would not panic. But after Monday night and what we see then, we can decide whether or not we are going to panic. And we'll talk about that on Monday before the game, as we will have a pregame because we are here every Monday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. At least I am. I don't know about Dylan, but we'll see. No, I'm just kidding. He's usually here. So I'm sure he's got something going on. I'm not sure what. But anyways, don't worry about it yet. Monday, let's take a look, talk about it again then, see what happens throughout the week. I'll be putting my ear to the ground, bugging our insider, making sure anything that happens within the building, we get to you before the game on Monday, so y'all can make your best decision on whether or not you want to hit the panic button. But here at the Answers 42, we always have our towel, and so we don't panic. If you don't get that reference, then maybe you're in the wrong place. But what does this defense need from the offense for them to carry the team? It's something we touched on a little bit last week. We want to go a little bit more in detail. The defense just simply needs this offense to be middle of the road. This is why I say if Russell continues to struggle, let Rippon come in, because I do believe that he could be an average quarterback, and that is all that the Broncos need. Right now, with the injury to Russ, he doesn't seem to be able to be an average quarterback, which he is a all-time great. I'm going to say that again. Russell Wilson is an all-time great. You can sit here and try and argue with me all you want, but I will beat you over the head with stats to prove just how wrong you are and how right I am. I will win that debate, but if you want to have it, hit me up. All the social links are down in the description, so you can find me anywhere. I ain't hiding. I'm right here. But the defense, again, just needs an average offense. This is a lot like 2015 with the Denver Broncos that rode the defense all the way to a Super Bowl. Uh, And that's what it's going to be. It just needs a basic, average offense. It doesn't have to be special. Averaging somewhere between 20 to 23 points a game would be all that this team should need. Yes, I know they scored 23 and lost to the Raiders, but that was an anomaly. Defense looked terrible, looked better, much, much better just 4 days later. So let's take that Raiders game with a grain of salt with these Broncos. Every team has a bad game on both sides of the ball. It just happens. So unless it happens again next week against Justin Herbert and company, I really wouldn't panic too much about the defense. I do believe this defense could be historic if it could just stop having injuries. They lost Ronald Darby last week, so you're going to be seeing a lot more of Damari Mathis, a lot more of Isang Basie, Quan Williams, etc. As they move up the depth chart. Garrett Bowles, the left tackle, is out this coming up week. So there's a lot of issues to get over. As we know, Quinn Miners has been out. He's going to be out for probably another couple weeks. So Graham Glasgow, unfortunately, is manning the right guard position. Lloyd Cushenberry, I'm really hopeful to see what he could do in his own offense, but he looks actually worse this year than he did last year, which is concerning. Dalton Reisner's probably been the star of the group, and even he's just been kind of average. The right tackle position has been as bad as we were terrified it would be. Hopefully, Billy Turner returning in the next couple of weeks will change that, but that's also going to depend on do they keep him at right tackle and Calvin Anderson over at left, or do they swap them? That's going to be something to watch on Monday as who gets the tackle positions and where. There's just so many variables on this offense, but if they can just settle down, get things together, get a belief in this offense, because it's a lot of what's going on here is that nobody trusts anybody and nobody believes the offensive philosophy is successful or can be successful. Nathaniel Hackett needs to find a way to get this team to buy in offensively. Ezra Evero has already got the entire defense to buy in for him. Between him and Dom Capers, they got the defense. If Hackett can just get that offense to buy in, believe what he is preaching and coaching is a successful recipe in the NFL, I do believe this offense can take that next step because Hackett was really scheming guys open all over the field throughout the entire game. That's why we started off asking why Russ was missing wide open receivers. Nathaniel Hackett is getting guys open. But Russ is so concentrated on the one guy he can trust that he never looks anywhere else. And so he's missing KJ Hamler wide open on the rub route crosser. He's missing Jerry Judy on a flag route or whatever the case may be over the middle because he's not looking their way because he doesn't want to throw it their way because he knows he has. I mean, he might be force feeding it to Cortland Sutton, but at least he knows that when Sutton gets his hands on something, he's going to hold on to it. So the rest of the wide receivers and other playmakers on offense, especially tight ends, really need to step their game up and regain Russ's trust. Once that happens, I do believe this offense can take off. And even though they might not be the best offense in the league, they don't need to be. Just be in the top 15. That should be all that the defense needs to win consistently. Now, as we were talking about Hackett and his struggles, so many have been talking about Hackett needing to be fired. I have reached out, listened to things with inside the building. There is nothing inside the building to justify any of these folks talking. Not Mike Kliss, not Mark Kisla, not Adam Schefter. None of these guys that are claiming that there is an issue inside the building or that Peyton is looking at, or George Payton is looking at Sean Payton. None of that I was able to verify. None of it, period. It's all conjecture. It's all just them being up in their feelings. No coach should be fired after 5 games. I don't care how bad they are. And no coach has ever been one and done in Broncos history. Now, obviously, it's a whole new regime. It's a whole new front office. So things can change. And I know they sat there and watched the debacle that was Vic Fangio and Vance Joseph, where they just kept getting chance after chance after chance, and it failed. So There is a distinct possibility that this new front office is like, you know what? It's no point. We got all the rest of the coaching staff has improved every other aspect of this team. The defensive staff has absolutely improved everything across the board. Special team staff, same thing. Everything across the board is better. The only thing that is the same or actually worse, sad enough to say, considering what Pat Shermer was doing here in Denver, is the offense. That's the only real issue at this point. Everything else has been fixed. And when it comes to the offense, it's not just personnel. Yes, there's a bunch of injuries. Yes, the offensive line was suspect coming into the year and has proved to be even worse than people thought it might be. But they just have to buy in. No matter what, next man up mentality. They have got to find some dog. A lot of people want to rag on Hackett for being too soft. And while I think that might be a little bit overblown, he needs to stop letting the children run the daycare. I hate to put that analogy out there. It's the best one I can think of in the moment is that he has to be the leader. He is the head coach. Yes, these are grown men. I don't want to just say that they're children or whatever, but it's to say the analogy is legit. He has got to be the teacher. He's got to be the leader. They have to follow. He has got to find a way to make them follow. They're not. As much as they say they love him, and I completely believe that the players love him. I don't know how you can't love a coach that's as entertaining and fun and loose and free as Hackett is, but you gotta have some Belichick in you. Like I love what he's brought, the energy, the fun, the music back to practice. All those things are nice, but you got to show that it's not just a circus, that you're not just out there having fun, that you're actually learning and getting better. So that's the number one thing that you have to see between Thursday night and Monday night is that Hackett made improvement. That you've seen everything else improve. You've seen clock management improve. You've seen play calling improve every single week. The only thing that has not improved is the buy-in and confidence. I don't know why, because again, all the other stuff's improved. The only thing that hasn't improved is like I said, the buy-in and the confidence that would complete the trifecta of execution. You have to execute. It doesn't matter how good Nathaniel Hackett draws up or calls the play. It does not matter how perfect the play call is opposing the defense that was called. If the team doesn't execute, then it's an absolute waste of time and it's going to fail. So, while I do not believe that Hackett should be fired because he is a rookie head coach and he is improving in a lot of the aspects that rookie head coaches that do fail don't. The clock management, the play calling, the play design, all of those things are improving week to week. If he can just get this team to buy in and execute, this offense can work. It will work in the NFL, and it will protect Russell Wilson the way that Matt LaFleur has protected Aaron Rodgers and extended his career. The same can be done in this offense for Russell Wilson. But the whole offense has to buy in, and that is how it'll work. So, really kind of gone over what is wrong with Russ. How detrimental is his shoulder injury? We really won't know until Monday again. We saw just how bad it is before the pain-killing shot that he got, or whatever it is. I'm not 100% sure it's a painkiller, but he got a shot. I'm assuming it's a pain-killing shot, something along the lines of a cortisone shot, but there hasn't been many details on exactly what it is, so I'm assuming pain-killing. Hopefully that again will let him let it rip. He won't feel the pain, so he can really put the oomph back on his fastball. But if not, and he can't get at least more accurate and more on time with his wide receivers with the extended time between games, then this could be a serious issue. And again, Brett Rippon should be taking over. And when it comes to his issues being fixable, it's mainly going to come down to that injury. The accuracy issues, the inaccuracy issues, as we stated, every year up until the season, Russell Wilson has been right there with Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees as the most accurate quarterback in the league and one of the most efficient and takes care of the ball the most. This year has been the complete opposite. And a lot of that has to do with that injury. So if the injury is fixable, yes, his issues are fixable. If it's not, then no. So again, we have to wait till Monday night. We'll find out then, watch, see how he plays, and we'll have to see how that goes going forward. And the next up is something we talked about in the offseason is the chemistry between Russell Wilson and KJ Hamler. It always seemed like they had a special type of connection. But since he's been in the lineup, Russ really hasn't looked his way. And then on the fourth down in overtime, KJ Hamler was wide open. There's no doubt. There's no way anyone can look at that play from any angle and not agree that KJ Hamler was wide open from the moment of the snap forward. The only reason that Russ did not see him is because Russ never looked his way. It was a single high safety look, and Russ stared down Courtland Sutton the entire play. From the moment the ball was snapped all the way until it was knocked down in the end zone. So the safety just followed him. If he would have just even looked that way like he should have to look off the safety, which would have actually opened up Courtland Sutton a little bit more and probably would have gave him a window, but he would have looked over and saw KJ Hamler was wide open, just looking to the right. That's all he had to do. But the whole time he was looking like this. He never made it this way. He stopped as soon as Courtland got into his field of view right here. He chucked it, and the game was over because he never made it past here. His eyes never made it past his center. It never even made it to his right guard, which would have been enough for him to see KJ Hamler. But my biggest problem isn't with the fact that Russell Wilson didn't look his way. It's with the fact that KJ Hamler, a essentially third to fourth string wide receiver on this team, he might be better than that, but that is what he is, decided it was okay for him to throw his helmet and show animosity towards his quarterback on the field, and then on the way to the tunnel, told a reporter that he could have, quote unquote, walked in if Russ would have just looked his way. And again, I am not refuting whether or not KJ Hamler was correct in his analysis or justifiably upset, but you never show up your quarterback like that, number one. And number two, you never talk about your quarterback like that ever. You never throw your quarterback under the bus, not if you ever want to see a ball come your way again. So my assumption is KJ Hamler has made a mini apology since then, and let's hope he has, and has, if there was any rift, which it's hard to believe that Russell Wilson would hold a grudge against anybody, but you never know with people. I mean, hey, if he did, it is what it is. But Russ just seems like that guy, turn the other cheek, let bygones be bygones kind of guy. So I believe that if, KJ made a concerted and sincere apology, Russ will accept it and he'll move on. But if he doesn't, and we'll know again Monday, depending on how many targets he gets. If he gets a lot of targets, we know they had the apology, the conversation. It's good. It's squashed. It's moved on. If he doesn't, then that is when you need to worry about cracks in the locker room. I wouldn't worry about cracks right now. It seemed like it was more of a heat of the moment kind of thing. KJ, you can't do that. I know he's young. Obviously got a little bit of a hot head. It's okay, young blood. Just don't do that again. You just can't do that, man. You just can't disrespect your quarterback like that on the field and then double down in the media. You are now quoted as essentially saying your quarterback blew it all because he didn't look and throw it at you. That just sounds selfish. even if you're correct, and I'm not disputing that you're not correct, it just, the optics, the way it sounds, it's all bad, bro. Don't do it. Again, don't think that this is a real indication of cracks in the locker room, but if it seems like Russ is giving him the cold shoulder and he's not looking his way at all on Monday night when he is at this point the second best receiver on the team, then you know that there's some problems in the locker room. But as of right now, I think we should be good because again, Russ just isn't that guy. He's not an Aaron Rodgers. He's not, a Tom Brady. He's not that real emotional kind of guy in that way. He's a very forgiving, very Christian, very, straight laced. A lot of people call him corny. I hate that word. Just because he's not a thug doesn't make him corny. Stop it. All of you, stop it. I don't care. I don't care what your reasoning is. I don't care what your lame, low hanging fruit grabbing, sorry selves have to say or an excuse for yourself. Stop it. Stop calling the man corny. You can't be that corny and marry Sierra. You're corny for trying to hate on a man that's 100 millionaire married to another 100 millionaire named Sierra. And you know who she is, and you know you're just jealous. You're just mad that the one of the queens of R&B wouldn't touch your wannabe thuggish self with a 1,000,000-foot pole. Just sit down. All of you, you're gross. I'm so tired of hearing people attack this man. It's the dumbest thing ever. How can you spend this many hours of TV airtime talking about a man being corny, yet you didn't want to say a single thing about Deshaun Watson being an absolute sexual predator? That shows so much about the society, about what kind of a black man is okay to be in this country. It's gross at this point. All of you are showing so many of your colors. Just calling the man corny and sad just simply because he doesn't fit your description of what a black man should be. Sit down, shut up at this point. I'm done with it. I'm so sick of it. It's gross at this point. Absolutely gross. So, KJ, calm it down. The media, stop it. Plain and simple. So, moving on from that, bad times, time to wash that bad taste out of the mouth because the Broncos get the Chargers, who just seem to be charging all over the place yet again this season. I don't know what it is with the Chargers. It's just constant with these people. Injuries, bad play calling, bad clock management. It doesn't matter who's on the sideline, who's under center, who's at wide receiver, who's on the offense or defensive line, who's in the defensive backfield. It does not matter. This team just finds new ways to lose. No matter how many times you think that the Chargers have found every single way to possibly lose, they find a new one. Just like they did last week. I mean, it's just insane at this point how bad the Chargers can be with how good they build their rosters. Like, you always look at them on paper and you're like, man, this could finally be the time that the Chargers faithful get rewarded for all of their loyalty, and then the season starts and you might have a game or two where you're like, wow, yes, they are. This is them. He is him. Blah, 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 blah. And then they just charge her. They just charge her along. So could this be a repeat of Thursday night football? Maybe. I hate to say it, but unless the Broncos offense clicks with the extra time and the defense just continues to be dominant and finds a way to shut down Herbert and company, man, it could be nasty. It could be nasty in two ways. It could be just like Thursday night football where both defenses are looking like world beaters and don't give up a touchdown. The game ends up 9-6 or 12-9. Or it could be ugly and LA goes out there and scores 30 points and beats the Broncos by 25. Or it could be that they go up 28-3 and give up the lead and the Broncos come back and win 30-28. I mean, It is so impossible to predict this game at this point that if you're trying to bet on this game, don't. Just don't. I'm going to tell you right now. There is so many variables here. I mean, if you do, you're a psychopath, and more power to you. I don't want you coming to my house and unleashing, but I would fade this game so hard. And I'm a fan. I would love to bet on this game, but I am not touching it. I am not touching it at all. I wouldn't even put it in a parlay as a, just a long shot parlay, hoping that it might, hit. I wouldn't even do that because this game is just completely up in the air. It's going to depend on which team gets their ish together better over the next couple of days. And they might not either get it together. And it could just be, like I said, a repeat of Thursday Night Football where it's just an absolutely ugly game and nobody wants to watch it. Nobody wants to talk about it afterwards. And it might be the last primetime game the Broncos get for the next decade because of how terrible they have absolutely been on primetime so far this year. All three primetime games, all three primetime losses. Hopefully, crossing our fingers, this can be like 2012 with Peyton Manning, where he went 2-3 and then faced the or at the time San Diego Chargers on Monday Night Football, went down by 20 points, and then had one of the most epic second half comebacks in Broncos history. And then they went on an 11-game winning streak, went 13-3, and ended up with the number one seed just to watch the Baltimore Ravens do the Mile High Miracle. We're going to choke that one out and move on. So what exactly needs to be fixed for the Broncos to have a chance to win on Monday Night Football? The offensive line has to block, number one. I don't care if they have to go into 3 tight end sets every single play of the game, but they need to find a way to protect Russell Wilson. Number 2, get Russ under center more. I know Russ wants to be like Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers, running everything out of the backfield or running everything out of the shotgun, but he is best when the pocket is moving on play action, and play action just doesn't work as well from shotgun as it does from under center. Again, you want to make your quarterback happy, you want to give him those shotgun throws, all of those things, that's fine. But you got to win too. You got to find something that's successful. And the most success the Broncos have had has been when Russ is under center and running play action, especially on bootlegs that, unfortunately, at this point, they can't do naked bootlegs because the offensive line is so bad. They're not even touching the outside guy, and they're coming flying down like when Max Crosby somehow ended up on a tight end in the Raiders game and was essentially untouched to the quarterback. Oh, we got some. Yay. Nika, appreciate you. Appreciate the like as well. You do it. Dallas played good yesterday. Unfortunately, yes. I am already getting tired of Cowboys fans. They are making me sick at this point. I love, how can I put this in a nice way so I don't completely bash Dallas? Um, I would much rather see Dak having the success just simply because I like Dak. But I would not, without Dak, I would have liked to have seen them fail just because how insufferable Cowboys fans are. But I guess we just got to deal with them because that defense of Dallas is legit. Like I didn't want to believe it, especially with how suspect they were with rushing the passer. But they have already got 20 sacks in 5 games. Trayvon Diggs is even better than he was last year. Malik Hooker has changed that backfield, that safety tandem that they had. So, yeah, Dallas is here to stay and sickening, but yeah, I'll admit they played well. The Rams were going down within the first 5. Yes, yeah, it was ugly from the opening series for the Rams until the end. Outside of that 65 or 75 yard pitch and catch to Cooper Kupp by Matt Stafford, it was an absolutely ugly game for the Rams. But back to what the Broncos need to fix. Like I said, number one, offense. They got to figure out a way to protect Russell Wilson. Whether it's changing up the blocking schemes, changing up the protections, or again, going to 3 tight end sets. Because, I mean, you can only trust really one wide receiver at this point, anyways. So why are we running 3 and 4 wide receiver sets? Russ isn't going to throw to the other 3 wide receivers. Why are they on the field? Go ahead and put in some extra blockers. Let him get some extra time. Run the running backs out in the routes. Let Cortland Sutton go out there and eat, and give him some time. Right now, the offensive line's not getting it done. So if that takes putting out 2 or 3 extra, blockers, then so be it. Even if they're not real tight ends, even if you want to, make an offensive lineman an eligible receiver and put a 6th lineman out there, whatever it takes, keep Russ upright, especially with that shoulder injury. He should not be touched. With no Joey Bosa, with Khalil Mack being a shell of himself, and the rest of that defensive line for the LA Chargers being suspect, Russ should never hit the ground on Monday. And it, again, does not matter how you have to do it, whether it's an extra offensive lineman, multiple tight end sets. It does not matter how you do it at this point. You just have to keep Russ upright every single play. Again, especially with that injury. If he hits the dirt, whoever let him hit the dirt should be cut. Plain and simple. So, all that being said, predictions for Monday night. I hate doing this because I told y'all, fade this, do not bet on it. Take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt because I am not confident in it, but I'm going to roll with my Broncos just simply because the Chargers are going to Charger. The Chargers are going to find a way to lose this game. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be a much better game than Thursday Night Football. I am hopeful that the shot that Russell Wilson got in his shoulder on Friday is going to be the key to unlock that fastball for him again and get back that pinpoint accuracy he has had for his entire career. And I believe that the Broncos will win 20-17 on Monday Night Football, getting some of that bad taste out of their mouth and finally letting Hackett get a win on the big stage. Prime time is the only game that's going to be on. And yes, Russell is supposed to be untouchable. That should be, I mean, it's like what Garrett Bowles said when he was drafted. Like, my quarterback, it's like my wife. I have to protect him the way that I would protect my wife. And I love that analogy because that is exactly how it should be. You should be protecting them with everything in you. No matter what it takes, they should not be touched by another man. Period. So, I think that's a good place to leave this. Again, I appreciate all of you that did show up, showed some love, gave us some comments, likes, and all that. If you are watching later, we love you just as much. You are just as important. Don't think that we only care about the people that show up here live. We love them. We love you too. Every view counts. Make sure, if you haven't already, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit the subscribe. All of the links are down in the description. There's our Twitter right there, @_theanswers42. We will be back next week. I should have my co-host Dylan. I'm going to find out where he went and kick him in his head. I don't know what happened to him this week. He never texted anything. He might have while I was on here. I kept watching to see if he'd get in here, but he didn't. So we're going to go ahead and end it here for the Breakin' Broncos podcast. I'm your host, Dan Wetstein, with the Answers 42 Media Network. Don't question the blue.